If you hang out on Instagram or TikTok at times, you might have come across the following trend. Videos that might be simply described as aesthetic roam the internet, putting an emphasis on the beauty in the mundane that surrounds us, reminding the viewer of being open to embracing the little bits of beauty that's around them.
I can be a shadow.
In today's video, I want to talk about how this trend is sweet yet kind of sad at the same time, and then highlight how the sweet part of this trend is a great way for you as a photographer, which I assume you are if you're on this channel here, to improve your art. Let's get into it.
Wanna see from the bright side. Keep my head in the game.
So I first encountered this trend on Instagram. However, I think it has become increasingly apparent that a sort of content funnel exists in the world of short form videos where something emerges on TikTok and then a month or so later it makes it to Instagram, and only like half an internet century later does it land on YouTube Shorts. But I mean, we don't watch any of those anyway, do we? The trend is quite simple actually. It's a montage of videos that are mostly aesthetically pleasing yet show something that isn't particularly extraordinary. This can be stuff like the morning sunlight that shines into the train that the person filming commutes with, or a flock of birds flying in a mesmerizingly smooth motion, adding a sense of life to the otherwise grey sky, or even simply some grass or any vegetation softly swinging in the light breeze of a summer day. The videos are often accompanied by a captivating and often melancholic piece of music. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle to bring this trend to completion is the center-aligned text that says, "The art of noticing." The intention of these videos is pretty clear, and its effectiveness is apparent when you see the amount of views and likes these videos receive. The video wants to show the viewer the unique beauty that surrounds our mundane lives. The videos often show relatable scenes that we know, however, don't appreciate to the extent that they might deserve. And that intention, in my opinion, is a really sweet one. It's a reminder for all of us who are racing through this thing we call life in a speed that our mind can't quite keep up with. Think about the amount of things you do on autopilot while not really being present. I'm very guilty of this. Whenever I have errands to run or need to get somewhere, I'll be listening to something completely different on my phone, or even watching something, or simply scrolling with my mind buried in this little rectangular alternative world, thus neglecting the real world that I am unconsciously moving through in an automated manner. And that brings me to the sad part of this trend. While the intention is sweet, it also reminds me of the state of not just me, but many of us who have lost the capability to just exist and be present and appreciate the stimulation around us. If I had to guess, this is the result of all the overstimulation that we've become so used to that has numbed us to the point that everything around us bores us. And so we miss out on the beauty that is sprinkled in our surroundings. Instead, we watch the beauty of others' lives and feel a sense of longing for the same, not noticing that we've just become blind to the different yet valid beauty that appears right in front of us. Now, what is the point that I'm trying to get to? Well, I don't want to add to YouTube's flood of negative content that makes everything seem depressing, don't worry. However, I needed to briefly show you that side of the trend as well so that we have a more complete and differentiated perspective on that trend to now pull energy from the positive side of it to fuel us with the positivity we long for, which will hopefully enable us to spread that positivity further. I want to tell you about how this state that I was talking about has been becoming better for me, and how the positive side of this trend has been having a positive impact on me and even improving my photography. If you've been following along on the channel for a bit, you might remember a couple months ago I made this video about a 30-day challenge of mine, which I did to become more consistent again with my photography. The main takeaway from that challenge was that simply being consistent in photography will naturally improve the craft over time. And since that challenge, I had successfully revitalized my consistency in photography. The reason why I wanted to bring up that TikTok trend is that it is also a small part of what has helped me become more present and aware of my surroundings. It reminded me to seek beauty, actively look for it, instead of distracting myself and then wondering why I'm not consistently practicing my photography. And of course, photography doesn't need to capture beauty. However, my personal style of photography is to capture things that somehow strike me because they are interesting, and that in itself is something beautiful to me, so my photography can be summarized as a collection of little bits of beauty I encountered.
Oh, the lilac snow drifting down so soft and slow. outside now.
I wanted to bring this concept to your attention to encourage you to reflect on your own behavior and see whether your day-to-day behavior might be impacting the consistency of your photography just like it was impacting mine negatively. Now that I've introduced you to the topic, I would like to show you some photography of mine from the last couple of months to present them, discuss them, and hopefully encourage you to shoot some more as well.
Oh, the light like snow tells secrets of long ago, of carols sung, of gifts we know. Oh, the light.
I've been putting in the effort of consistently photographing for the reasons stated, but also with the intention to further expand an ongoing project of mine, which is to document my home. This is in part me simply documenting my life, of course, but also I'm hoping that this chapter of my life, that takes place in Innsbruck for now and a couple or maybe even many more years, will result in a body of work that shows my perspective on this city, and so every time I'm running errands or I'm out for any other reason, I have a camera with me just in case. However, these photos here were shot on a walk that I went on specifically to enjoy the beautiful end of this day, the first day of sunshine after a couple days of snow. I love the combination of this end of day lighting with the snow. I think the results turned out really beautiful.
Then the quiet.
Then here are a couple photos I shot while running errands and just being in the city. On this day we had some really low-hanging clouds that made the city quite foggy, adding an intriguing atmosphere to it, which I wanted to capture in these photos.
Long ago, of carols sung, of gifts we know. Oh, the light.
Something else I commonly practice when in the city, which usually includes riding the trams and buses, is street photography. I really like these two shots. And here follow some more from a different day with the sun out. Then, before we continue, I want to thank the beloved continued sponsor of the channel, Squarespace. Squarespace is a wonderful all-in-one website platform that I've been using for my website for nearly 4 years now. That is where I present the different projects I've worked on or am currently working on, ranging from short films to photography projects. So here you can look through my work with a little thumbnail and then click see more if you want to see the details, where I've either placed the finished work or it says something like in post-production. What I personally love about Squarespace is their interface, which is really simple and easy to understand, so that someone like me who wants to present their work online and doesn't need a super complex website can easily build it myself. You can start off with one of the many templates and then customize those to fit your own needs and taste. Head to squarespace.com for a 14-day free trial, and then when you're ready to launch your website, you can go to squarespace.com/TeoCrawford to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for continuously supporting me in my work here. I really appreciate it. Then, this photograph marks the beginning of one of the most beautiful mornings I've ever experienced here. Innsbruck's northern city border isn't the edge of the city because the houses and the infrastructure naturally end there. It's because of this. The Nordkette, a chain of mountains that rises above the city. And something that is a core part of this city's culture is not just these mountains as a view, but an area on the mountains called the Seegrube, which is a small ski area right above Innsbruck. And in January, I finally made it there for the first time since moving here. As you can see, the conditions were absolutely incredible, and so I was of course busy shooting. Mind you, this of course kind of falls out of that whole the art of noticing theme, because I think it's fair to say that the beauty here is one nobody could overlook. But I want to show you a general overview of what I've been shooting over the last couple of months, and so of course I don't want to keep these to myself.
I look for a first that I can't seem to find.
The guy with the red trousers is my friend Torby, who was attempting some big jumps here, which I tried to capture. I really like this version with the super wide crop. I decided to crop this to a 1:2.35 ratio to get that panorama look, which I think elevates the photograph by focusing the composition more on this part of the image by cutting away the top and the bottom. I found that this led my eye to wander through the photograph from left to right, whereas in the uncropped version my eye didn't feel as guided by the composition.
all the colors.
Here, I wanted to capture the other people attempting the jumps, and I asked Toby to stand in front of me for a moment in the hopes to add a decent foreground this way, and I think it worked out quite neatly.
Of your being. I slip into a cold and step outside.
Here, I was yet again trying to capture some beautiful light that shined into my room one afternoon. I love it when the light is mostly low in winter and adds a gorgeous warm hue to my room in the evenings.
It leads me to a valley, secret emerald grove.
Here, I try to capture some cool cloud and light action going on outside. I feel a bit mixed about this one. I think it does kind of capture what I wanted to, however, it also didn't really turn out that good looking. After that first day on the Nordkette, I was hooked, and so the following weeks I think I went up another 3 or 4 times, this being another photo from those days.
All the wonder of your being.
On this day, I remember I was one of the first up there in the morning. The chairlift for skiing wasn't even open yet, so I walked around just to shoot a little. The clouds were a bit high on this day, so I found myself walking through them at times, which gave me the opportunity to shoot some really cool looking photos like this one. Sadly though, the camera was metering the scene incorrectly, so the shot is quite underexposed. This is the best I could do trying to fix it in post.
The light becoming clear, I walk along. Pull my head over my ear.
This is a shot of Innsbruck's main station. I remember this was the morning when I was heading to Austria's smallest town, which I showed you in a video a couple weeks ago.
A spring beneath the leaves, in a forest free to grow, with the orange morning glow, and then it starts to snow.
These snowy photos are from some more ski days when a friend came to visit and we went skiing twice.
In the feeling
More light appreciation photography in my room.
of your being.
Then, this photograph marks the beginning of a 2-week period in which this guy, Elias, and I teamed up to work on a short film of mine. I'd found this cool location for the shoot, and so of course I was tempted to shoot some behind the scenes photos during that time.
Bolts of lightning, pouring rain, crescent moon has taken itself far away to lay down.
On our last morning on location, only a couple hours before leaving, we got some serious snowfall that completely transformed the landscape outside within just 2 or so hours. This was a really cool morning to document, and I'm happy with the photos I was able to capture.
And blood, but the sky grew dark and got inside of me. I still hear.
Sadly, here too, the camera's light meter was confused by all the white and hence underexposed the shots. That's why these two look a bit flat.
But it isn't true. I was just as lonely with you. I guess I always.
These are some more shots from the shoot. This is now from the second week when we shot in the forest, where I encountered a couple scenes that I also wanted to capture on film. And then, at last, I would like to finish this showcase with a set of photographs that actually don't stem from Innsbruck. I shot these while visiting my family in Salzburg, and of course I had my camera with me. One day, the conditions were so cool. I was really excited to see some fog, and so I roamed around the neighborhood to find some shots, and I think these turned out pretty cool. I mean, obviously I like them. If you've been following me for a while, you know that up until a couple of years ago, I was basically exclusively shooting foggy days. I remember standing next to the road here, waiting for a moment when there were no cars so that I could get this shot. As the last car in sight passed me, I realised that this car could be a great addition to the photograph, adding an extra subject in the middle. And I think with those red lights that are visible in the distance, this turned out so good. I'm really fond of this shot. Here's another one of my favourites from this day. This was in the evening when blue hour came along and the foggy mood was still present, which made for this intensely blue and atmospheric looking scenery which I just couldn't resist to photograph. And so that was a little summary of my photography from the last couple of months, since making the effort to be more consistent again and also trying to practice the art of noticing. I hope you enjoyed this, and possibly I could encourage you to take your camera with you more often and practice photography a little more. Anyway, I'm really happy you made it this far into the video. Thank you for tuning in. Before saying goodbye, I would like to thank the lovely people supporting me in my work on Patreon. Thank you so much to each one of you. If you're interested in Lightroom presets, tutorials, or postcards, you can check out my page via the link in the description. Also, I have a print shop, by the way, in case that is of interest to you, also in the description. With that said, I hope to see you again soon. Until then, goodbye.